it's James, and this is our recap for Amazing Race 34, episode 10, Don't Look Down. I'm so excited about this recap because I get all this time to myself with these amazing people. Will, unfortunately, could not join. He's taking our dog to the vet. But without further ado, and like I've been getting tweets from people about getting Leo on this show. I threatened to break up with him if he didn't come on at some point. So I'll add Leo into the stream first. Hey, Leo.
You know, there's nothing that gets me like a good threat. I was like, I gotta spend more time with this guy. He's just like publicly threatening me on Twitter, sending me intimidating WhatsApp messages. So it's a pleasure to be here. Hello, James. Always a pleasure to see your face.
And hey, I'm going to get to see you in person in 2 weeks.
I can't wait. I'll be at the Survivor finale party, and I love your nails and your cashmere sweater. Or this fluffy? I don't know if it's cashmere.
Leo.
It's fluffy.
Stop. You're making me blush.
I am, James. It's what I do.
And then, of course, my true ride or die, because let's talk about the challenge for a minute. Those aren't real ride or dies. But if it would have been Cayla and I, that would have been a real ride or die pairing right there. Hi, Cayla.
I was about to say, Leo, you're making me...
Oh, what? You making you what?
Where did you go?
I don't know what happened.
I was like, she's a threat.
Leo, was that you? Are you self-sabotaging my friendship with James?
It's not really how self-sabotaging usually works, but no, that was not me. I am not an evil hacker.
Oh,
sorry, I don't know what happened
there. This is the first time y'all have like met, right?
Yes, and I got excited. I thought you were talking about Hearts of Reality, and I was like, oh, do I get to meet you in person? But I guess I won't be there at the Survivor finale.
Like ships in a night.
Yeah, so close.
And then, of course, last minute, we were able to get the Military Brothers, who I think were one of the strongest teams of this season. So I'm looking forward to recapping this episode with them. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and bring Marcus and Michael in. Hi, guys.
Woo! Hey, how you guys doing?
We're good. So excited to talk to you more. I know we did an exit interview this morning with Marcus. So Michael, it's nice to finally able to chat with you. And I look forward to hearing about your experience on the race as well.
Thank you for having me. Sorry I was not on earlier. I was flying fast jets around.
I was going to say, were you doing the circuit where you like triple booked? Do you need a time turner?
No.
I love it. Well, let's go ahead and just dive right into this episode. Obviously, it's the second half of the second mega leg of the season. And so the episode starts off with Marcus and Michael showing up at the beach where Emily and Molly are hanging out, waiting to do these detour tasks. And then we have Derek and Claire, Aubrey and David, and Michelle and Lewis already on the go for the second part of the mega leg. Derek and Claire kind of leading the pack here. Marcus and Michael, when you were at the detour doing the salting of the fish, did you see these teams at all, or was it just Emily and Molly?
Actually, I think we saw who finished. I'm trying to think of who was on the fish. I'm sorry, I've been not sleeping.
Lewis and Michelle.
I want to say there's obviously Emily and Molly. I think we saw
other teams like, okay, so you know, after this part of the race in the mega leg, we take our lunch break, right?
Yes.
So we actually saw some teams walking away, going to their lunch break as we kind of pulled up, but actually doing the task was just Emily and Molly.
Got it.
What was for lunch?
Some sandwiches.
Some Fire Festival food. Got it.
I was actually sick to my stomach at the time, so there was no eating for me.
Oh no! So you didn't even eat the fish at the beach?
I think Michael did. Yeah,
I did that.
Was it good? It kind of looked good.
No, it was just a salty sardine. That's all it was.
Sounds pretty good to me. Maybe you should have had Derek's.
Oh my god,
His looked good.
His technique. I sent him a gift. There's like a gift of him with his hand like doing this, and I was like, Derek, your technique is
little angel dust.
So funny. So the first 3 teams are already driving to Ronda, which I've seen that bridge before many times on Instagram, and it looks stunning. So I was excited to see them do the Heights Challenge later on in the episode. But for Marcus and Michael, when you guys were still at the Detour, how long do you actually think you were there? And how far behind Emily and Molly were you when you ultimately left?
I think it was about 30 minutes or so, maybe a few minutes more, that we left the Detour after them. At that moment, I might be wrong. Michael, correct me. I thought it was about 30, 35 minutes, but we left
longer than that. Because when we got to the stop, they weren't there.
Mm.
Well, I could be wrong, but I remember leaving the so we left Picasso. That was about 45 minutes. So I thought we shaved a little bit of time after the Detour, but I might be wrong. So yeah, it was. Okay. We were pretty behind.
Yeah. Okay, so when Emily and Molly finally left the beach, what was going through your head in that moment?
Trying to hurry to cook these fish. Hopefully they don't burn, and because they showed it a little bit, but like they had them on the skewers, and then as they were cooking, some parts of the coals were hotter than others, and then some of them would just fall off the skewer as they were cooking. And so we tried to put as many as we could on, like just, all right, sweet. We'll hopefully 20% of them will just fall off. We'll discard those and then just put the rest on the plate, and hopefully he accepts them.
And how long did each skewer take, one side and then the other? Because I mean, like watching, it's hard to tell, but I'm like, I feel like it didn't take that long. So if it got messed up, you can make another skewer pretty quickly, or no?
Michael was the lead because my hands were so cut up from the panels, so it's pretty gross. But the sardines were like sitting in this bucket of water. Yeah. So the medics eventually came and like put some Neosporin and bandaged my hands up. But in the meantime, like I would like soak my hands in the water for a while. And so I think the edit that you see was like the moment the medics bandaged my hands, like I would walk around, I would try to help Mike a little bit, but most of the cooking was all him.
Well, okay. Don't feel too bad, Marcus. Claire also didn't contribute in this challenge.
That was out of sheer disgust for touching fish.
Yeah, but she respects the profession.
Yeah.
Did you ever consider switching Detours with it being right there? Did you think maybe that could have been the faster option of the two?
I don't think that thought process ever popped into our brains. Because when we first got there, we thought it was going to be fairly quick. So, Cayla, going back to your question, it didn't take long for some of them, but again, the coals were hotter in certain areas, so some of them took longer and some of them were faster than others.
Yeah.
The wind was blowing, and then I guess I don't know what else to call him. The chef, he actually came and like adjusted the log or the wood that was burning the flame so it was like, I don't know, had proportionate flame for the fish to cook. So he came, he's adjusting the log and stuff like that. As far as changing Detours, it didn't come in our mind, and mostly it's because we opted not to do the sailboat supply. For some reason, we thought you had to stand up and paddle board. Yeah. So like if I would have, I don't know why that was what we thought, but
as Lewis and Michelle showed you, you really just have to be kind of draped over it.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of Lewis and Michelle, hey y'all.
Right on time.
Wait, I thought they were racing. That's right.
Only the brave go in the water. Hey,
but nobody's scared of water. Like I scuba dive with sharks, so nobody's scared of it, Lewis.
I don't do that. I was gonna say, Marcus, your hands might not have been any more comfortable in the salty ocean. So
probably not.
Yeah, it would have been terrible.
Yeah, but I don't know. Saltwater is meant to heal it, and obviously you don't know like in the moment, but it's like watching because like Lewis and Michelle got in and out of that water while Derek and Claire and I think Aubrey and David were there too. I mean, they went fast on that, and
Right.
so
Yeah,
like,
whenever I have it caught in my hand, I just dip them in the ocean.
I'm serious. It's salt water's good for you, like for healing scabs and stuff. It is.
No, that's actually good to know. I'll keep it in mind when we return.
For next time.
The next time.
Well, you eventually get it. You're on your way to this next part of the mega leg. Did you guys feel like you were potentially out of it at this point, or did you think there might be some hope still going forward? Because it looked like it was a long road trip to get to Ronda. There could be room for error with the other teams.
I think when we first left, there was this is how I felt. We might have talked about it in the drive. We're going from one city to the next, and some teams have a tendency to like kind of like really mess up navigation. A lot of that was probably mostly Quentin and Maddie. So, but
also Derek and Claire, you know.
That would have been me. That's how I would navigate that situation.
But and then we saw before that David and Aubrey, they've made their navigation mistakes as well.
True.
But during the ride, this is my opinion. This was the easiest navigation I think we did on the whole race.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I'm like, there's no way anybody got lost on this trip. It was the easiest thing we've done driving and navigating wise. So but by the time we got to Ronda, it really set in, at least for both of us, like that we're probably no recovering from our position.
Yeah, I know, because like Derek and Claire obviously left first, but we saw very early on that they actually fell behind. And when I talked to Derek, it sounded like there was some weird roundabout where you have to like veer off to actually go to Ronda. Yeah. And I think he thought Ronda meant round. So he went around, him and Claire went around it, and then he started going back and eventually got back to the beach. This is what he told me. And then I think that's why they ended up falling behind David and Aubrey, which, as we see in this moment, we are seeing this budding relationship or this working relationship between these two teams. Obviously, Derek gave them a pointer with salting the fish at the Detour. David and Aubrey are talking in this moment about how they feel like they owe Derek and Claire. So this kind of sets up the narrative for the rest of this episode of these two teams kind of running the race together.
Yeah.
So
there was a lot of collaboration that Michael and I were not included on, and yes, right, we owe him a favor. But
how does that make you feel? Like, I would take it as a compliment, because if I'm like sizing up all the teams, like I said it in the very beginning for another podcast, you guys remind me of Anthony and Spencer, and like they were like the male duo that I was scared. I'm like, if we're gonna lose, it would be to them. So like, I wonder if people were like teaming up to beat you. Like, do you feel that way?
And now there's no male teams left. Maybe as a result of this.
Yeah.
I'll let you answer, Mike. I'll chime in.
Why do you want me to answer first?
I don't want to overtalk. I'll talk it. So here's the thing: legs before, we do have friends on the race. I think even teams that got eliminated before us that wanted to see us win. At least that's what they told us. But anyway, teams were collaborating about how to find our weakness, what is things that can trip us up, and it was almost fruitless in a way because there's no U-turn. And so, but I think the opposite of that is, if I can't U-turn Michael and Marcus, then I can help another team out stay in front of Michael and Marcus.
Right. And I think in this particular case, I mean, David and Aubrey, I mean, just their race average in general isn't as high as most teams. And I think Derek and Claire, coming from a show like Big Brother, I think helping them in that moment, I definitely think that they recognized if we help David and Aubrey, we haven't seen Marcus and Michael. If we keep this relationship going, there's a chance we can knock them out of the race. And like you're saying, there is no U-turn, there aren't any yields, there aren't really race advantages on this season. So that's really all you can rely on. So I think it absolutely was a play in ensuring that y'all have a shot at going home.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that's funny about it is that I think a lot of luck played into the fact that Molly and Emily, I mean, with all credit to them for like staying in the race, it's sort of unbelievable, actually. But you know, like the strategy of making sure that David and Aubrey are ahead of Michael and Marcus,
Exactly.
like, seems to make less sense if there's a team that's like truly hindered by an injury, and then it just kind of ended up working out. I don't know. It just seems like you're leaving a lot up to chance, and like you two could have easily surpassed Molly. Oh, I actually had a question. If it came down to a foot race, this is a question for Michael. If it came down to a foot race, do you think you could outrun Molly and Emily?
No question there.
I just wanted to hear you say it again.
Dude, but I did when I saw that you guys had to drive to Ronda. In my mind, I'm like, ooh, Marcus and Michael are going to make up time because you guys were flawless with direction. And I was like, surely the other teams are going to have issues like navigating, because almost every episode someone has. So I was like bummed. I was rooting for you guys, man. But like, I also like, I've talked to Derek, and like, I mean, nothing against Aubrey and David, but I also think it's more of, I don't even think it was necessarily let's get Marcus and Michael out. I think it's if we can get Aubrey and David like towards the end with us, they feel more comfortable beating them in a final three.
100%.
Which
I could
definitely
definitely
though. Like their average is going up, so I mean, I don't see them.
Well, everybody's average is going up this year by there's no teams at the end.
I know.
From a number standpoint, everybody's average can go up.
I'm a very nice guy. I was just being nice.
But from a strategic standpoint, like if I was a betting man, that all that stuff went into Derek's head.
Yeah.
I want to keep David and Aubrey with me. So if I can get them to the final three, I have a better chance of beating them. I saw Lewis's messages. I think your average might have went above ours after Spain. Up until then, it was definitely us. So
yes.
You know what else went into Derek's head was that he thought it was a Ronda bout.
Yeah.
It's really fun. It is.
Oh my god. Yeah, and I also think there obviously is benefit, and Will and I took this and wrote this down in our notes before our season, is to always have at least one team in sight, just because it gives you a little bit of a buffer that if you are at the back of the pack, there's hope still. And it's like, if it did come down to Derek and Claire and Aubrey and David on this leg, let's say they were the bottom two. Yeah, Derek's probably thinking we stand a better chance of beating them. So I see your point, Cayla. I think it could go either way, 50-50 on his perspective on the matter.
Yeah.
So when you guys get to Ronda, you have to do the second roadblock of this mega leg. Michelle and Lewis are leading the pack. I mean, first and foremost, I think that they have been dominating this mega leg. The second half, like it was such a clean race for these two, and they just are having the time of their lives. But for this detour, they had to choose between bend over backwards or dress for success. And bend over backwards, teams had to assemble a brick arch in order to receive their next clue. In dress for success, teams had to accessorize a flamenco dancer so that she matched an onstage performer in order to receive their next clue. Cayla, if you and Raquel had this option, which of the two detour options do you think you would have chosen?
So I actually think I would have done the bend over backwards one. I forget what the clue said. Like I know it's bend over backwards, or what was the other one?
The other one was
Dress for success.
Dress for success.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just think I would have picked the bend over backwards one. And I think and Marcus and Michael, I would love to know what you guys think. I think it might have been a mistake. It looks like that kind of took a little while. But then again, I don't know how far the run was in between the flamenco dancer and then the shop to get the stuff. Because I feel like my strong suit is attention to detail. So I feel like I probably would have done that fairly quickly. I would like to think on the first try, but the building thing looked like it took some time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Leah,
I
what
would
do
have
you
picked
think?
the bend over backwards.
What do you think you and Alana would have chosen?
I think we would have chosen bend over backwards just because that was I just thought it was so cool the way those things are built. Like, I don't know if I would have, and it can be so hard to like choose the right challenge anyway, that at a certain point you just like pick something that you want to do and you feel like you don't see any like big red flags about.
Right.
For example, it turns out that Dress for Success was like a athletic challenge, basically the running back and forth, and I'm guessing that wasn't clear in the clue, and so like Marcus and Michael, you would have been the perfect duo to be doing Dress for Success because you just jog back and forth as many times as you need to. So yeah, but the bend over backwards, that was just like, I'm still thinking about like how that even works.
Well, there's that piece, right? The running back and forth, but what we don't know in that clue is how many accessories,
Right.
Or how much are we dressing this person? Are we putting just the 5 accessories like they actually had to do? Are there more? Do we have to?
Sorry to interrupt.
Hey, little man.
Oh my God, hi Lana, hi kid.
Hello.
Oh.
Is there a dress or a skirt we have to put on her? Do we have to match her shoes?
Okay.
So
say bye-bye, kid. Say bye-bye. Good night. Good night.
Yes.
Bye.
Sorry to interrupt. That wasn't. I actually want to hear what you're saying, but that was going to happen at some point.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So, but I think we had a real short conversation. Michael was like, "Let's do that one," and then I think we had a conversation like at that point in time. So as we arrived in Ronda, and we had to valet the car, and find a tour guide, and we saw like the wood carver, which was the person you have to go see after you complete the detour.
Yep.
But we saw the big yellow envelope on his Amazing Race envelope on his workshop, so we ran to him first. We were told by production, like, that's not your clue. Understanding, like, that means it's the next clue. There's only one left.
Yeah.
So we already knew it's...
So we knew at the time.
Say?
So we already knew at that time
that
we were last.
Reality set in at that point. So then we went 20, 30 feet to the tour guide and got the detour clue. It was like, hey, well, we might as well, we had a conversation, like we chose it, but then we talked about it. We might as well build something and just enjoy it. So we built the arch.
Yeah, I know we talked about that in our exit interview with you this morning. And because Michael, what I prefaced that with Marcus was the two of you on this episode just felt very more calm in your approach to the race. Usually I feel like you guys have such an intensity to compete. And I loved that about the two of you. And I really appreciated the competitiveness you brought to this season.
Yes.
But I asked Marcus, I was like, correct me if I'm wrong, but something just felt different about the way the two of you raced. And that was Marcus's answer. And like, now it makes sense, is that you guys kind of already knew, well, we're kind of already out of this, but you guys seem to just have fun with the rest of your leg.
Are you talking about like after like the fish fry?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's part of the reason why, because like we talked about the hour break there, like we started that and we didn't see any other team. We didn't see Emily and Molly, and so we were like, we got some time to make up. And then like they showed teams asking for directions to Ronda. When we stepped at that gas station and looked at the map, there's only 2 routes, and I think Marcus hit at it, but there's 2 routes, and we're like, there's one that's super long, and then there's one pretty much direct to Ronda, and it was like, this is the easiest one that Marcus mentioned earlier, and like there's zero chance that any team is going to get lost. And so again, when we showed up and we saw that one clue left for after the detour, it kind of was just like, well, let's just take our time and enjoy it.
I wonder if that slowed you down, though. Like, do you think that in your chilled out mode, you were actually slower at racing than in your intense competitive mode?
No, because
we still
even before then it was fish fry, lunch break, and drive, and we left the city right away. And because the additional instructions in the clue said, go to this place in this postcard, you can only take these highways. So we knew we had to take those highways. So we just started driving, and with the thought that we'll stop at a gas station. The gas station you see on the clip said we'll eventually stop along the way at a place that's not off the beaten path, and then we'll get clarification. And so that's what we did. And we were already en route to Ronda. That lady just pointed us like in the right direction. But I think we were chilled out in the car though, because I mean, we can't go faster in the car, right?
Yeah.
So you must not be from Boston.
No. Don't get me wrong.
No.
We got warnings.
And I speed all the time. So I was still trying to speed as much as I could.
Yeah.
With security following us,
Security.
Right?
Yeah, that's the problem.
And so,
we got a warning in Munich in our little micro car.
Oh, yeah, we got two warnings.
We got a warning.
We got like 2 warnings in Munich.
On our drive, I think from Munich to Austria. So we had to chill out.
Yeah. So I mean, I was still
Those
trying
warnings
to
are scary.
At least you didn't
there,
drive your
but-
car into a ditch.
Well, you know what? Some people probably shouldn't be driving. I don't know.
So
But-
do you think that seeing that last clue then, do you think that kind of persuaded your decision in what detour you did?
I think so. I mean, Michael said it first, and I was thinking dress for success. And then we talked about it. Let's just have fun. And for me, it was like, I don't think there's a possibility to come back. Like I said, reality set in. So it was like, it didn't really matter, I guess. So it was like, let's do something that could be cool, and we can have some photos and videos of us constructing.
And then even then, when we got to that, we saw at the wood sculptor, we had that one last clue to go to the high rope. Like it was right above where the high rope was.
Yeah.
And so
wow.
maybe if we would have seen like Molly and Emily doing that, then something would have changed. But we saw that last clue and we didn't even see anybody over there.
Yeah.
So how long did it take to construct that? I mean, because you guys picked up on your mistake really quickly.
Oof.
We were there at least an hour, probably longer.
Probably.
And the difficulty for the task was more in the time it took to complete. So it was like, hey, put a brick here, put some rocks in, put a brick here, brick, rocks. So like what you're doing isn't difficult, but
Just tedious.
It's tedious,
very tedious. And then like they give you like a bag of rocks. And so, you're trying to find rocks that are similar in size to space out a certain way. So it's like, should I use this rock or should I use this rock?
But I like your logic and like picking that one, because for 2 reasons I would have done the same thing. Like, yeah, if I thought like we're for sure out of it, I would be like, well, what one do we want to do to get the best experience, or like think is cool or unique, like I don't want to pick some girl's outfit, no offense. And,
No.
but same, that's also kind of my mindset. Like at this point, you're towards the end of the race, and if you're not going to get first, it is kind of like a don't be last, but also it became, well, no, like this is
Experience.
a one-time shot experience. So like I'd rather do the things that are a little bit more catered to like, just like something cooler. And I would have, for me, the bend over backwards, I'd be like, that sounds cooler than picking out a girl's outfit. So like,
I would have bent over backwards to do that challenge. I was wondering if I was wondering if either of you are going to build an arch in your backyard now, or in a neighborhood park or something.
Hell nah.
No.
You know what?
That memory is tainted.
We both move around so much as far as part of our career. But when I find my permanent home, I might think about building an arch. Like, hey,
you should, when you do that, you should post about it. People I would be thrilled. Maybe Jimmy.
I just love that y'all did that.
Just email me, actually.
Detour, because we got to see it as viewers.
Yeah.
There's been some seasons and some episodes where like one detour is just the better option and all the teams do it. So you never really get to see the other one executed. So I loved it and it was really fun to watch. And I don't think Will and I would have done that detour, but I love hearing Leo and Cayla, your thought process on why you guys probably would have ended up picking that one.
I was going to say, yeah, you for a fact would have dressed the flamingo dancer, like no question.
Oh yeah, Will's like, yeah, we're gonna go dress the models. We're gonna go Which, it was interesting because I saw some tweets about, what were the rules for this challenge. And so from Lewis tweeted, the few rules were you can only take one item of each. You can't take notes or draw. You also had to be about 6 rows away from the actual dancer. And if you had an item in your hand, then you can't watch the performance and you had to leave the space immediately. So those are really fun, like insider rules. So I appreciate Lewis tweeting those. Because I was curious why they were standing so far back, but it does, make it a little bit trickier because some of the details, like in the earrings, like how can you see those details from that far back? So I loved the flamenco part of the detour, and it was just really interesting too to see once again Derek and Claire showing up at the same time, shopping together, dressing the flamenco dancer together. So it's continuing this narrative of these two teams.
Which I thought was wild that Claire and Derek were the only ones that got the little clampers wrong. Yep. I was like, ooh, they weren't in cahoots about that.
I would love it if we found out later on that David and Aubrey were like, we intentionally told them to pick out these ones just so we can get a little bit of a leg up on them.
Yeah. See, for my season, we did a similar strategy in especially after Raquel and I got so lost, taking a slower route in Switzerland and we didn't see anybody. At first we thought, oh, this is great. We're so far ahead of everyone. No, it was quite the opposite. But so then it was I want to see a team. So if we're by a team, let's 4 heads are better than 1 navigating. But it was an understood thing with our cast. It was, but when we're at the detour or the roadblock or whatever the challenge is, each team we're on our own.
Yeah.
I'm not going to help you do that. We'll help navigate. But so, I mean, if I was Derek and Claire, I wouldn't have helped them with the fish and I wouldn't have helped with spotting out the things. Cause at that point, you two are behind. So why help them? That's my only thing with working with other teams. That's just my view on it.
Nail in the coffin though, just really make sure that they get across the finish line. Maybe they thought Aubrey and David were going to go in the wrong direction or
maybe.
I don't know.
I mean,
maybe.
It didn't affect us, right? We lost on our own, right? Because I couldn't put this puzzle together the right way. But the collusion was absolutely real amongst other teams. If they could have got rid of us in Petra, they would have.
Yeah.
And so they didn't want us there at all.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys take that as a compliment. But
yeah, that's definitely the reason.
Yeah,
they were concerned that you would win the race.
But that still sucks,
Well, it's also really interesting to hear that because I mean, I feel like for our season, obviously, our season got a lot of polarizing comments from viewers on either teams working together being praised or it was completely disregarded. Fans hated it. Yeah. But I'm hearing that no matter if it's seen in the edit or not, teams are working together and helping each other. Yeah. That's been a common theme of this show since the very beginning of this series. Yeah. And relationships, that's what I love about Amazing Race, is relationships are the focal point of this show. Whether it's you and your partner, you and the local you're working with, you and the people you're teaming up with, like the locals at certain challenges that are showing you how to do the task, or even with the other teams, relationships are what drive this show. So even if we're not seeing it in the edit, it's still happening. But I think our season, unfortunately, was the guinea pig of let's just showcase this as the forefront storyline all season long and never really show any development of anything else. And obviously editors learn that, and they're just never going to show that kind of stuff as much anymore. That's why I'm shocked that we've seen Aubrey and David and Derek and Claire work so closely together this leg. And I haven't seen any negativity about it hardly at all on social media.
No, I've been on the social a little bit, and I think it was very minimal, but it was
I don't recommend
why
social
is
media.
it was just questioning, like, why is Derek helping providing advice? And then but the response was because they would rather race against David and Aubrey.
Yeah, I think it's different with only two teams. I don't think they're seen as like the strongest teams. Like, even though Derek and Claire have done pretty well and they have a very good shot of winning, like it's not. I don't think it's seen as this like dominant force. Like in our season, if I'm right, every leg was won by the top three except for
Berlin.
D'Angelo and Gary winning in Berlin. And so I think there's like this real sense in that context of like punching down, which like I know wasn't even the intent. I just think that's how it comes across. Whereas like
You're not wrong.
Derek and David and Claire and Aubrey, like, bless them. Like, I hope they can, finish a leg. And so if they need to help each other out a little, I get it. Like, I think that's just sort of like, it just comes off a little different. I am honestly surprised that they're choosing to show it. Because because of what you said, James.
Well, that was the first thing. The last point I'll make with this detour is when we watched it, after our season, like, producers did an interview about how rules were going to change with teams helping each other or working together. And one of those rules that would be implemented is once you get your clue, you got to keep going. Your race continues. You can't fall back and like help another team. So that was something I always thought would have been implemented. But the moment David and Aubrey finished the detour, had the clue in her hand, she jumped over to Derek and Claire and talked them through every item and said, oh, this is what's wrong. This is what you need. It's bigger. And then their race kept continuing. So to me, it's no different than what happened with sauerkraut in our season, or even with
Hung and I were the only ones who actually solved the challenge. Is that what
yes, it's no different because it's like it's an answer that's being shared, and it's just interesting to me, and just I'd like to see the pros and cons after having done the race and seeing the show, and like it seems like there's really no rules that are changing. We're just not seeing relationships between teams as much in the edit.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That rule, I guess I would like to say it's not in existence because I don't recall that rule ever being briefed.
No, I don't either.
Yeah, it wasn't briefed during my season either because we had like the bagpipe and I don't think they showed it, but Natalia stayed behind and helped Lulu and Lala, Raquel, Coach, and so I don't think they ever. That wasn't verbalized to us as if you rip the clue, you got to go.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna keep saying this whenever I'm on the internet. I really wish they would change the challenges so that every team had a different answer when possible, right? Like each team could have had a different dancer with a different costume. With sauerkraut, everyone could have been unscrambling a different letter, and then you couldn't help each other. And it's very simple. You don't have to enforce it. You don't have to like, wag your finger, right? And people are going to do it secretly anyway, unless it's not possible.
Right.
The other thing is,
you see that every once in a while, and I can't remember season or country. For some reason, I'm thinking somewhere in Eastern Europe, probably Russia, where there was a challenge where people were had to find a dancer, a guy with a mask on, but all the masks were different.
Yeah,
they had to match for
Great
their
memory.
their model. And so I think it rears itself sometimes, just not all the time.
I want it to rear itself more of the time.
Yeah.
I agree with Theo. I think that's a great idea. Because then again, it's like if you guys help each other navigation, that's one thing. But like in the challenge, like each team, because you're as a viewer, like you're rooting for the duo, the team that like you like their dynamic or you like how they run the race or whatever. And so it would shake things up a lot. Like my favorite seasons are where like there's a lot of multiple winners, like or as far as like first place. Like, I like the change of
placement.
Yeah,
and teams would still try to help each other. It would just be it would be muted. It would be more of a challenge.
Yes.
Speaking of helping each other, I'm also wondering if Lewis and Derek's bromance is if there's drama now that Derek has been helping David.
Ooh.
I know.
I think Derek is a chameleon, and he's in the moment. Who can help me right now? I think that's what's happening.
I think you learned that on Big Brother.
Big Brother,
You're back if you scratch mine.
Of course.
That's essentially
like in Superbad.
Yeah. Let's talk about the roadblock. We talked about it earlier in our exit interview with you, Marcus, but Will and I found a flaw in this challenge, and I'm curious if anyone else noticed it. But for this roadblock, they had to walk a tightrope. But the clue was who's been paying attention. So I think the mistake was a lot of teams probably thought it was going to be something memory-based, but it was quite the opposite. Essentially, they had to walk this tightrope to the other side of the bridge, pick out the Andalucia flag, come back. If it was wrong, they'd have to go back and find it again. Now, no teams, at least from we saw in the edit, made this mistakes.
That's wrong.
It was just like, the what?
So that's wrong.
You made a mistake?
Oh yeah. they didn't show it, but I ran across that high rope about three, 4 times.
I want to know if anyone else did too, because part of me is like, I'm not someone that's afraid of heights, but like, I mean, Raquel was that way. So like, I mean, good for Claire and Aubrey. I mean, they crushed it, but they were so emotional afterwards. In my mind, I'm like, did they have to do it more than once? Because Aubrey was crying. She's like, I don't want to do it again. Please don't make me do it again. So I was like, did she have to do it again before that? I don't know. I'm curious.
Great.
I mean, if they all got it their first chance, then congratulations to them. Do I believe all 4 teams got it their first try? Absolutely not.
I know. I feel like Aubrey and Claire maybe, I mean, I could be completely wrong. I would love to know. I would love for them to answer because, I mean, they were just so emotional afterwards. And Aubrey was like, oh my God, I can't do it again. Please let it be right. It makes me think that maybe she did it at least twice. But
did oh, sorry.
No, you're good. The Claire sassiness was
don't talk to me.
Amazing. I loved seeing this side of Claire. It was cracking me up. These poor girls experienced a trauma. Like this
I know.
traumatizing to those two.
You know what would have been more traumatizing if the bend over backwards was the roadblock.
Yeah,
that would have been so fun, like to watch and like see who would like break down from just messing it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should have switched the 2 tasks. That would have been interesting.
I think
but
so.
About the high rope though, didn't Aubrey tell Claire the answer?
Yes.
I don't remember.
I mean,
yes, absolutely.
I think that happened.
Yeah, there was a little conversation, and she showed her the answer.
Kind of just going back to the competition thing, because I know it was asked, and I didn't really reply.
Thanks, Sophie.
But I'm just wondering. I get it from like Derek's standpoint of like garnering a relationship with David and Aubrey. But like, why were they? I'm just curious as to why they were helping out Derek and Claire, who's clearly a stronger team than them. And Claire is afraid of heights. I mean, obviously they're both struggling there, but she was clearly breaking down.
They owed them. They felt like they owed them.
I could see at that point
but they already helped them with the dancer.
Or
True.
even navigating. They followed them all the way to the detour. And that's when David and Aubrey say, we owe them one. And this, like, we're getting there together, essentially.
Now let's give them 3.
Yeah,
I know.
3. And like that,
Totally.
that was, at least in my mind, going into the final 4 and whatever the time difference there may be the next leg, like, hey, how about you let them struggle and maybe they get 4th? Because I mean, I don't know, who knows. But
Or
like,
you never know. Like, I mean, I don't think that she would have gotten to that point, but like, what if Claire, like, if she got it wrong and she like refused to do it again?
exactly.
You know, like they could be out because of that. I mean, I think Derek would have been able to talk to her, and I don't think Claire would have done that, but you never know. Like, that's
You
a
never know.
possibility. And for Aubrey and David, who have never even won first, I mean, you want to guarantee that maybe you at least get released in another group from them the next leg by beating them. You know, it's just, I think people sometimes forget like how, like, I mean, like it's Amazing Race. Like, I mean, one wrong like mistake not only gets you out, but I mean, it could just at the final, like, I mean, you could have won $1 million if you didn't. Like, what if like Derek and Claire beat out Aubrey and David at the end, you know? And it's like, damn, we shouldn't have worked with them, you know? Like, that's how I think with like Kim and Penn. I'm like, God, if we just wouldn't have helped him that one
Yeah.
time, like, you know,
I think for
I could be a
some,
millionaire right now.
I think for some people, it is extremely difficult to look someone in the face and say, I'm not going to help you. And then especially with Claire, like breaking down, and I'm not even saying that because I like think Claire deserved help in that situation. I completely agree with the strategic discussion, but I don't know if I would have been able to, like there was a point where I was like cut off, like, you know, Haley and Kaylin and Alana and I had helped each other back and forth. And then when we were like leaving them at the garbage orchestra in Paraguay, and I think Haley was still working on her instrument, or maybe Kaylin, and I like gave her the most useless piece of help on my way out, right? But that was like really difficult. And then like same thing in Berlin, where, you know, I was on my way out, Haley was on her way up, you know, and it's just really difficult not to help.
You know,
Yeah, because
Emily.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Emily had that nerve in her. We were working with the twins since Petra, so something else not shown. It was more like the early navigation. Let's get here. You saw us running around the Mon together up until the Detour.
Mm-hmm.
We planned the route together in Dom to get to the castle. But once Emily finished the Picasso puzzle, she said, "Sorry, Marcus, I can't, because if I tell you, you're gonna beat us." Those words came out of her mouth, and there's no hard feelings. I totally understand it, but I don't know if other people understand that part of the competition.
Yeah. I think what viewers sometimes miss is like, sure, you're seeing the drama of an episode, right? Like you see what you want in the 40-minute context, but you don't see the bigger picture. We spend so much time together on the road that even though like my biggest argument is people are still shocked sometimes to see how close we are with Leo and Alana. We never hated them. Those words were never uttered from our mouths. They were just, in our opinion, our biggest threat. But we still loved each other. Like, we still liked each other. I mean, I'm speaking from mine and Will's perspective.
We fought like family.
But I mean, like, but people are always like, well, James and Will got so much help. No, like, we wanted to help teams when we felt like it was beneficial to us. Like, even though there's this alliance, we never stayed and waited. We never stopped our race ever to help out another team. It's like, as we're leaving, we'll give you some pointers, but we're going to keep going. That was, I think what I love about hearing what Molly and Emily did, and they were very honest, like, we're not going to help you because you can beat us. Like, I think it's like knowing the balance of when to help versus when not to help.
And we kind of discussed that. We kind of discussed that with them, actually, of like, hey, we'll help navigate whatever, like, depending on where you're at, maybe give some hints on like challenges, but like, I'm not going to, like, the full understanding between us is that, hey, once you're done, continue with your race, and that's it. Like, there's no need to stop and help us and continue. Like, that's not the point of this relationship like we'll help when it's required or needed.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah. And so I was just kind of distraught about that decision to do that there in that time and place of Aubrey. That's just maybe the
Mike was
competitive
not a
spirit in
fan.
me. And yeah, that's just the competitive spirit in me. And yeah.
So, Michael, I'm curious why you were doing this roadblock. So, the reason I pulled up this comment is because immediately Will and I noticed that the flag said the name on it. And so I pulled it up. If you look really closely, it says Andalucia.
Oh, yeah, it's right there.
It's on the flag. So,
yeah.
Well, it's in Spanish.
So I'm just curious, when you got to the end of the tightrope, were you allowed to step over and grab it? Because I saw Aubrey do it.
So I don't know if they gave them leeway, but I remember them saying I could not do that. Like I could go to the end of the tightrope. She was freaking out. They said I could go to the end of the tightrope, and then even then, I tried like stepping over that railing, and I couldn't because the wires just wouldn't let me. There was no give to it. And so I was just sitting there trying to like lean over the guard railing and like read all of the flags. Obviously I know Spain, but the other ones had some writing on it. I couldn't for the life of me like read that until like I just started picking them and I was like, all right, I don't know.
Yeah.
But clearly because I fly planes, like I didn't have an issue with the tightrope thing. You should have seen if they would have shown it, I was running up and down that whatever staircase.
They showed you even doing it once. That was pretty unbelievable after seeing the other teams do it. I was like, yeah, it looks pretty straightforward now that I see Michael doing it.
He was yelling and stuff on it. And after the first time he came back and he didn't get it, so where we were standing, where the non-participant stands, like the flags were like across the gorge and they're up there. And I'm trying to talk to him, I'm trying to stare into his eyes so he follows me. So I'm like, Michael, did you get it? And I'm staring hard at him, and I'm like, look that way, and then you will see it.
Like it's right there.
It's right there. Like I couldn't point, but I could because I can't help but I'm like, look at my eyes because they can't see my eyes.
That's the most frustrating part about the race is you as like the non-competitor or whatever. Like, oh, I had so many moments where it just takes everything in you not to be like, oh my God, Raquel, like it's this, like and you're just like, jeez.
But there were some teams doing some helping, some assisting in roadblocks, and it was minimal help, but it was help nonetheless. And I'm like, I thought that was a penalty, but
I think the PAs should be given bottles of Windex to squirt the teams that are doing that, right in the face, like right in the eyes.
Oh, but I would push those rules. I'm like with the Raquel with the Domatis, like I knew that she had her leaves inside out or whatever, and then I'm like, keep it up, Raquel. Look at the demonstration, Raquel. Pay attention to the details, Raquel. And they never told me to stop. And in my mind, I'm like, we'd have our conversation at home in the in the hotel room. I'm like, if I tell you like, pay attention, Raquel, I'm saying go back to the demonstration. You missed something. We would try to have our like secret code. So future racers, maybe have a secret code for your partner.
That's a good idea. The secret code. we were afraid to help because I don't know, the orientation brief. It was like you cannot help.
So serious. Yeah.
We stayed away from it.
Yeah.
You can only cheer from the sidelines. So once teams finished the roadblock, the final clue of this leg instructed teams to find the pit stop between Ernest and Orson, leading teams to figure out that they had to find Mirador de Ronda, which was monuments to these two men. The final placements for the leg of the race are Michelle and Lewis getting first. They had such a clean leg, good for them. Aubrey and David getting second, and then Derek and Claire running up in third. Fourth place, we have Emily and Molly. And then unfortunately, this episode, we do say goodbye to Marcus and Michael. You guys ran an incredible race. Like, you guys were such a strong team and really fun to watch. Was there any takeaway from your experience together as brothers that you walked away from this experience with?
I answered this earlier, Michael. Go ahead.
I mean, for at least for us, because this is like the first time we've ever competed together due to our age difference and growing up, because it was more of a coach to a student kind of relationship. Learning how we like communicate, which I think like us as brothers and like we have a close relationship, and then also our careers, I think that came a little bit easier. But trusting our instincts, I think, was what I garnered more from that, and then just deciding to act. And like if we make a decision, either we stick with it or we try it once when it's like the challenges and then move on, or just move to the next one, which we should have done at Petra. But
The candle to the puzzle, yeah.
Yep. So with that, and then obviously we grew closer because I obviously learned more about him spending that 30 days, because usually we only spend like a holiday, so like 4 or 5 days a year together, because we're always apart. But that was good, like for us growing our relationship. There's things obviously I didn't know about him, like him and our older brother growing up in Chicago, like things I didn't know because I wasn't around.
That's a whole other show.
It could be. And so with that, I think there were some times where there were some relationship, like bonding, development things that was more than just this super competitive team that wants to get first place, which I think was a lot of our edit. But I think there was like some things were about our dynamic that I think we grew with each other that probably could have been shown a little more. But it was an awesome time, and I felt like a lot of times Michael acted with me as I'm the older brother, and I wanted him to be like, no, we're teammates and we're partners. And I think that shifted some throughout the race.
Beautiful answers. I love that.
Well, and as someone that like I don't know you, it's easy to I feel like I know you because I watched you on The Amazing Race, but like it was just cool because I thought for sure I'm like, oh, these are two like competitive guys, like they're gonna go at it at one point, like just like two dominant, like type A or whatever. But I didn't like, even as someone like, again, like the outsider, like looking in, like I did see like how, I don't know, sibling teams are very interesting because I could never do it with my sibling. Like we would be at each other's throats, but like you guys worked, yes, you were competitive, but like the perfect healthy dose. Like it was like the competitiveness that I love to see, but also like, I mean, yeah, you guys worked really well together. And like, you could say like, oh, I should have been the one that did that. And then, and then like you guys would agree. So like, I don't know. I'm sure there was a lot more of it they could have shown, but it definitely got across to me at least. I'm like, you guys have a very healthy, competitive, playful, like relationship.
Yes.
It looked that. I mean, it was fun to watch. Like, I don't know. I just had to say that because I mean it came across the TV for me at least. But I do have a question because I always want to know, like, what was your favorite challenge for both of you? Because it can be different for each of you.
Ooh, favorite challenge in terms of the Detour or Roadblock?
Any of it. Like, what was just your favorite? Yep.
Well, Detour definitely wasn't the damn bells.
That would have been the death of me. No way.
Okay. That edit right there was probably the
gracious
like the most stress
that
we've seen us in, and Marcus's face and that stress there. That was probably the most stress you've seen the two of us in. But to go back to your question, I think, at least for me, my favorite roadblock was the yodeling.
Yeah.
Oh, that looked so good.
I actually was going to say the same thing, even as a non-participant. Not only just watching him, but watching the group.
That would have been hysterical.
And Rex had the swag, and I'm like, yo, he's gonna dominate this challenge.
Yeah.
Ended up not being so. But watching the yodel, and then I think the ones participating in possibly the Arabic challenge.
Oh.
It was like kind of straightforward. You know, there were some funny moments.
Interesting.
There were some funny moments, but we got in and got out. I mean, I think it's easy to say the physical challenge, you know, running this cheese around the city, but no, I think the Arabic is a little different.
No, that's cool.
I gotta say, I think my favorite thing watching the two of you do was finish the tower iconography challenge in last, and then show up with the next one in first. I was screaming. I was hollering at the TV. It was unbelievable.
You know, there should have been one challenge where you're just in the country and it says drive here. You don't even have to do a task. Just get there in a stick shift car and then find a place and leave and go again and just do that for hours. That should be a challenge.
Yeah.
James, what do you think? Would you want to do that challenge, James?
Probably not.
God.
Probably not. Y'all, let's tease next week's episode really quick before we wrap things up. Next week, the final 4 teams are flying 2,000 miles to Iceland to get a spot in the finale and for the chance to win the $1 million grand prize. Iceland looks beautiful. All these challenges look insane. I'm incredibly jealous, and I'm worried for Emily and Molly with the lag. I hope it doesn't be their downfall overall, but I'm a little nervous.
I know.
I'm jealous too that we didn't get to go.
Yeah.
Iceland is so beautiful. I'm so upset we didn't get to go.
Well, you guys can just take a trip together without the stress of Amazing Race.
This is true.
Thank you all for your time and for being a part of the recap today. Marcus, I look forward to meeting you soon. Michael, I'm bummed that we won't be meeting, but hopefully sometime in the near future. Welcome to the Amazing Race family, both of you. Kayla, I can't wait to see you next week. And Leo, I'll see you in too.
And Marcus, I'll get to meet you at the finale too.
Okay. I'll see you there, Kayla.
Right.
Thanks for having
there.
us on.
Of course. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for having me.